Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Invictus Racing League No Assist Championship. My name is Gareth, otherwise known as Captain Stiff, and happy Easter to all. I hope you've had a wonderfully sunny bank holiday weekend and have filled yourself with chocolate all the way to the brim, and you're back ready for some exciting F1 action back here in the No Assist Championship. Yes, as you can see on the screen, we are in Down Under. We're at Melbourne, Albert Park for the Australian Grand Prix. Unfortunately, we do have a smaller grid size due to the bank holiday weekend. A few of the drivers being away on holiday, but they will be back, don't worry. Next week we'll be back up to a full entitlement of drivers, but we do have 7 very hungry drivers ready to take to the track this evening for the Australian Grand Prix. A 5.303 kilometre circuit, that's 3.29 miles long. Distance to turn 1 is 350 metres, that's just over 0.2 of a mile, where that longest straight is that main straight, 860 metres, just over half a mile. Top speed around here is 300 kilometres an hour. That's around 186. They'll be doing that on the approach to turn 1 with full throttle for 70% of the lap, with the fastest corner being turns 11 and 12 being taken around 155 miles an hour. The slowest corner down at turn 15, that's taken just over 55 miles an hour. Gear changes here, it's around 55 gear changes per lap. That's just under 1600 over the race distance for these guys that are heading out on track surface now, and we'll go on board Joel V520 in the Mercedes. He looks to be the first one to take to the track, and we'll see what he's got out. It's the set of ultra softs for the Mercedes driver today. So yeah, Joel, great camera angle there as we look through the gates. We'll go, there we go. GP1 Alex now out also on the ultra soft tyres. Humbo Stone is out on the softs. You can see the Red Bull equally. Scott, it looks like we don't want to see either of Mercedes today. Scott's all out there on the hardest yellow walled soft compound of tyre. So yeah, an array of strategies so far. Of course, with under 10 drivers this evening, everyone will be starting on the tyre compound that they set their fastest lap on this evening. So there's going to be no real advantage of going out there on a tyre that you think that might not last, because it'll be better to kind of play the long game, I would suggest, than possibly look at these tyres burning out. However, Australia, not a particularly tyre aggressive circuit, even though it is a street circuit. Look, you can look after your tyres fairly well around here. It's around a maximum downforce setup. You need quite a decent amount of ground clearance to ride. It's quite a bumpy circuit, especially in the second sector, and you got to make sure you look out for how the drivers are really pushing themselves around this track circuit. It's how they ride those curbs, and the curbs here are relatively smooth, so you can see the cars really maximise the track width and the track distance, and we'll see what Humbo Stone does on his approach to turn 1. It's turn 1, you can really bounce across the curbs here, and he does quite nicely. The Red Bull there, just run out onto that rumble strip. We've got a yellow in sector 2 currently. Possibly a driver spinning on the out lap. Humbo Stone goes through the first sector now. Good time there so far on the soft compound towers. This corner around here, it can be devilishly tricky on if you've not got your setup right. You can find yourself getting slightly unbalanced, and it's one of those ones you've really got to be careful of. Turn 6, I believe that is. Turn 5, sorry, turn 5. Is a little bit wide there for Humbo Stone as he exits out of turn 9 into turn 10. Now it's that long bending left-hander around the golf course, now sweeping left through right. One of the trickiest complex of corners in the early part of the calendar at turn 11 and turn 12, taken almost full throttle, and it's really the driver that will be on it tonight. They're the ones that you'll see that will be flying through that turn 11 and turn 12 as GP1 Alex sets the provisional pole time at the moment on a set of ultra soft tyres. He's done a 121.816 as Humbo Stone's going to be the next to come across the line. Looks like Joel might have invalidated his lap, so as Humbo Stone does a 122.5. A good lap there on the hardest compound tyre. As Scott, equally, he goes a 121.8, so great lap there, equaling GP1 Alex's time on the second stage softer compound of tyre. So great lap as Never Miss goes into third position at the moment at 122.1. We're on board here with Phil MCFC. As we know, superb driver when it comes to qualifying. Very good one lap pace. Hasn't been able to quite translate it into overall pace. Of course, last week he had his best run in China and had a fantastic battle with Scott for the race, which unfortunately penalties was his worst enemy and dropped him off of the podium at the end of the race. So a real killer blow for Phil, but we'll look to see what he can do on the red-walled tyres. And good evening, Scopefielder. Good to have you in the lobby. Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of drivers away due to the bank holiday and the Easter break over in the UK. So smaller lobby this evening, but as we saw last week in China, we saw some fantastic racing with a smaller grid again. So it's definitely not the amount of drivers, it's the quality you have on the track. And with the likes of Boy Benano, Speed Queen, Joel, Phil, Alex, Humberstone and Never Miss, it looks like we are going to be in store for a cracking qualifying session. And as I say that, look at the time, a super soft time, 1:20.7. As I said, the man who seemingly can really lock himself in when it comes to qualifying, Phil MCFC, puts himself on provisional pole position at the moment. And in fact, what we'll do is Speed Queen, she's not yet done a representative time, she's sitting on 1:27.9. Joel currently still in the pit lane, yet to set a time. So at the moment we've got a Renault on pole with a Sauber in second and in fourth as GP1 Alex and his teammate Never Miss sit on the first and second row of the grids. Scott sits in between the two Saubers in third. Humberstone in the Red Bull is in fifth. Speed Queen, unfortunately without her teammate Nikki 9095 to play team tactics with, she's going to be out there soloing it today. She's out there at the moment trying to set a fast lap on the soft compound of tyre. Does she? She's got the DRS open, so she's certainly not coasting this lap. She's definitely going for it. So we'll look to see if she carries on with the race, with the qualifying lap as we come towards the final two corners of the lap. Down here now into turn 15 and open it up into turn 16, and she is going to go for it. So it's a more competitive lap time now for the Ferrari driver. What does she do as she crosses the line? So 1:27 is going to become a 1:22.297, so moves her up one position into fifth. So yeah, good lap there for Speed Queen on the 2 lap old soft compounded tyres. That's Humberstone and moves up into third position. Good lap there from the Red Bull. He puts himself up onto the second row of the grid, so it's a good one for him. That's a pretty decent start for Humberstone, who was of course last season very pacey in the Tier 2 Championship. So Humberstone, although he's not had the greatest of seasons so far, he's definitely one driver that you can always look out for being able to push particularly hard. And we'll see if there's anyone out there on a flyer. Looks like it's relatively quiet. You can see Joel V520, he's now out on the outlet trying to get as much heat and temperature into those super soft tyres as possible, really putting that steering wheel through its paces now. Kicks the rear end of that Mercedes out, try and get as much temperature into those red wall tyres as possible, get them sticking to the track. Of course, it's one of those tracks where you really need the grip, and especially down into turn 1, that's where you need the tyres to be on absolute optimum working performance. And this is where Joel is going to really need to lock in his lap. He sees that his teammate is now currently swapped over onto the super soft. So Scott set that 1:21.848 on a set of softs. So he's definitely going to target at least jumping ahead of Scott. But he's bailed out already, so it looks like he must have cut it at turn 1 and turn 2, which is incredibly easy to do. And so that's 2 laps now that Joel has been unable to set a competitive lap time in qualifying, and with only 9.5 minutes left to go. He's got time to get back to the pits and come back out, so plenty of time left for the Mercedes to set a competitive time, but possibly running out of tyres of the harder compound. Of course, it all depends on what he decided to go for. Did he go for the soft, the middle, or the harder strategy? So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what Joel comes out on for his, I imagine, would be final lap time, as GP1 Alex currently sitting in second position at the moment. He's out there on the super soft tyres as well, so Alex set that initial time on the Ultras. He's now out on a set of harder tyres, going to try and go a little bit quicker, but we saw his time was almost well, I was caught, it was pretty pedestrian. It wasn't massively quick on the ultra soft tyres. We've seen guys go much faster. You can see Phil's gone out there, he set that time on the slower tyre, and equally the guys around there on the super softs managed to catch up to Alex, so Alex is going to look to have a much better lap out this time in the Sauber, so it's going to be a pretty nervy lap for him. We've got 8 minutes and 15 seconds left in the session, and so yeah, it's going to be all or nothing for Alex on this one here. He's probably only got maybe this set of supers and then a set of harder compound tyres, I would imagine, unless he wants to go for another set off the as you can see there, that will enforce. We'll see if he bails out of that, because you know that if you run over either one of those two corners there, you can pick up a corner cut warning here, which will invalidate your lap. So we'll look to see if he carries on with the lap. He's currently sitting, he's just gone through sector, just come to the end of sector 1 here, just at the end of this straight. We'll see he's currently 0.03 up at the moment, so only 0.03 of a second faster than his initial lap time, so he would be going faster at the moment. We'll see if he sticks with it, locking up the front right there, but he manages to get it pulled in just about in the exit of turn 10. Now it's that long left. He's possibly a little bit unsighted by the Mercedes down into turn 11 and turn 12. As he's lost control, I say that, he's going to swing right in front of the Merc, but luckily manages to keep it out the barrier, and that is one thing these guys will have to be really, really careful for, and it's one of those things that you can really catch you out, especially if you, that is that AstroTurf just off the edge of turn 12. If you run onto the grass, it will unbalance that car and it will turn it around, and we've seen I believe it was 2 seasons ago, Speed Queen lost it there, and she was caught out in a big accident with, I believe it was Joel, possibly Nikki 9095, and I believe there was a 2 or 3 car incident and the exit of turn 12. So it's one of those ones that's going to be really tricky for these guys tonight, as Alex has decided to stick with it. So he's not come in and boxed for a new set of tyres. He's going to decide to go for another flying lap out there on the super soft tyres. Runs a little bit wide once again. But we'll come on board now with our current pole position holder, and that's Phil MCFC on running out majorly wide down the exit at turn 12, so that's going to compromise his time. And has he bailed out? Looks like he has, yeah. So it's Phil bails out of that lap there, so possibly worrying up for one more go. He's out there on hardest compounder tyre, so it's going to be tricky to go faster, but sitting on a 120.7, he's got a nice cushion back to Alex in second position, and almost well over a second back to Humbo Stone in third. So Phil's got time to box. He's got 5 minutes and 40 seconds left in the session, as we see we've got a car just leaving the pit box there. We'll see who that is in a second. Alex is the only one out on circuit at the moment on the super soft tyres. What we'll be able to do in this final sector of the Australian Grand Prix. Slow there into turn 14 for Alex. Turn 13, sorry, now it was in turn 14, now into turn 15, and into the final corner, turn 16. Opens, almost clouting the wall, really on the ragged edge there for GP1 Alex. Really lucky to survive that, and he's managed to beat his time by 1/100th of a second, so he's managing to set time on the super soft tyres that will beat his time that he set on the initial ultra soft tyres. So essentially that's job done for him, but he's now done way more laps on those super softs that he would have wanted at full speed. He's done 2 laps, and equally he'll have the out lap and now the in lap, so it's going to majorly compromise him. He's going to have to try and get in and out as soon as possible if he's going to possibly get any faster. But at the moment we've got Scott, he's out on an out lap, never misses on out lap. Equally Charles is going to go for 3rd time lucky and hope to set a much faster time. Scott, of course, took the race victory last week in China, and it was a pretty explosive race. And if you haven't seen it, I suggest you go back to our YouTube channel. Make sure you check it out, the No Assist Championship race around China, round 7 with Invictus Racing League. It was a really fun one. We saw a fantastic battle between Scott and Phil MCFC for the race win, and then equally we saw a brilliant podium fight between 4 drivers, and yeah, it was an absolute cracker that Sam and I had the pleasure of commentating on. So make sure you check out that race, and equally all of the back catalogue of this season's racing, which you can find on the Invictus Racing League YouTube channel. Oh, sort of wide there for Scott. Well, let's see if that's he's 3/10 up at the moment, so that currently only moves him up into third position ahead of Humbostone. So he's still got a lot of ground to make up if he's going to catch up to Alex. You can see that nicely tucked in there for the entry at turn 9 and turn 10. Cuts a much shallower line, now pulls it out wide, and now it's that flying 11 and 12 complex. Perfect exit there for the Mercedes, and we'll see what he does at the end of this corner. Is it going to go around and keep it tight? It's nicely done, kicks the rear end ever so slightly, but still holding on to the Mercedes. Good exit there out of turn 14. Now turn 15 and turn 16, very easy to ruin your lap right at the end. Don't run out too wide, as we saw Alex do, but a good exit there for Scott. Can he improve? He's going to come across the line, and he does go pole position. It's a 1:20.497, taking pole position off of Phil at the moment. But Phil now, he's put a set of the ultra soft tyres on, and he's going to come out. So Phil is looking at taking pole position. Oh, apologies there. Sorry, still getting over a little bit of a cold. And yeah, so Phil and Alex now both out on the softest ultra soft tyres. Speed Queen, she's now been knocked down as Joel has managed to set a competitive time. He's done a 1:21.565. So Joel now up onto the second row of the grid, as we see Scott there letting the Ferrari pass. And we'll see who's on a flyer at the moment. Looks like Humbostone looks up slightly into the entry at turn 9 there. Now can he nail this tricky 11 and 12? We've got a yellow in sector 3. Is that the slow moving Mercedes? I believe it might be. Yeah, looks like we can see just ahead. Humbostone now coming towards the end of the lap. Like I said, very tricky. Oh, it looks like he's bailed out of it. So yeah, the Red Bull, unless he's deciding to go for another lap after this. We've only got 1 minute 5 seconds left in the session, so it's all or nothing for these drivers as Joel and Scott decide they're not going to go any quicker. So the Mercedes both pit in. So Humberstone's going to go for one more lap. It's got 51 seconds left. Equally, we see Phil back there. He's just about to start his flying lap on the ultra soft. So this is where Phil really needs to nail that lap. He doesn't want any problems when it comes to corner cuts, because on those ultra soft tyres, of course, he's going to be faster than anyone else. Has never missed, retires from the session. Don't think that was on track, but oh, it is. So Never Miss, just as I say, I don't think it was on track. Never Miss has lost it majorly on the exit of turn 5 there. Like I said, you can run out wide and it loses the it gets right underneath the car and it can turn it around. And Never Miss, the first one to unfortunately, oh, it's Humbostone looking like he almost went pretty much sideways into the wall on the exit of turn 10 there. But yeah, Never Miss, unfortunately, he was the first one to feel the effects of the understeer, and the what was it, Humberstone's bailed out of that one again. So we say as Phil has lost it. We saw a wild McLaren deciding to spear across the track, I believe, behind Renault. I say it's not McLaren, as but yeah, Phil majorly losing it on the exit of turn 12. So yeah, a lot of drivers pushing right to the limit. Currently, as you can see, there it is. There is the Renault buried into the wall in the exit turn 12. So obviously just got a little bit wide, hit that grass, and it's just turned the car pointing towards the wall. And now it's only GP1 Alex who's out on the ultra soft tyres. Can he take pole position off of Scott at the last possible moment? Is he going to keep with it? No, he's bailed out of it. So he's decided that he's going to set a time on the super soft tyres. That means that your pole sitter will be Scott, that's boy better know, SB. He will be the pole sitter for this no assist championship race around Melbourne and Albert Park, and leading away 7 what will be very quick drivers, but equally we've seen them make mistakes. So yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting to see if everyone can keep it out of the wall tonight, because Of course, that's the hardest thing to do around here. You can find yourself, it's very, very easy just to feel like you've got yourself into a bit of a rhythm, and then just make that ever so slight mistake, and once that's happened, you're pretty much done for the evening. So unfortunately there for Phil, unable to improve his time, unable to get that pole position that I'm sure he desperately wanted, but he will be starting in second position, I believe it is, behind Scott. So yeah, there is pole position for Boydell though in the Mercedes at 120.497. 2.5 tenths back to Phil MCFC in the Renault. Speed Queen 80 is up on to the second row of the grid in third in the Ferrari. She does a 120.8 alongside the Sauber of GP1 Alex. A driver that's done very well in the last few races, picked up a couple of podium positions, so GP1 Alex always one to watch out for. He's managed to get himself in his last 4 races he's picked up third position 3 times out of the last 4. But yeah, Joel in 5th. Humbo Stone takes 6th, and Never Miss is in 7th position in the Sauber. So Never Miss, unfortunately, spinning out the exit of turn 5. So he's the one that's going to start from the back, and he's going to have a lot of cars charging ahead that he's going to have to try and fight his way through if he's going to improve early in the race. But of course, guys, whilst we're waiting for everyone to sort out their strategies, once again, thank you very much for getting the No Assist channel to Twitch affiliation. It's absolutely, it was a real a treat for us to be honoured with that. And what that means, of course, is you can subscribe to the channel. You can go up, click on the subscribe, where you can subscribe for either the bronze tier, the silver tier, or the gold tier for a nominal fee each month. Equally, if you've got Amazon Prime, of course, you can use your 1 month's free subscription on the channel. You get it free with Amazon Prime. We get the monetary benefit of the subscription for that month, and of course it doesn't cost you a penny, but yeah, we get the monetary value of it, and it goes back into the league on the website, making sure that we with the payment for the hosting equally, and getting all the drivers getting to a stage when we can celebrate the drivers with the likes of trophies or of giveaways and goodies. So yeah, thank you for that. And of course, if you want to support the league, you can in any way, whether it be via subscription, whether it be just a follow, equally sharing it and talking about it on social media. And of course, our social medias are Invictus RL on Twitter and Instagram, and Invictus Racing League on Facebook. So make sure you go to all our pages, like and subscribe, and then equally check out all of the old streams on YouTube at Invictus Racing Leagues, where you can go back and look at all the back catalogues of everything that we've done here. You can go all the way back to, I believe, 3 seasons ago. So there's plenty of races to catch up with if you want to go and see some really, really decent no assist racing. And we've had some really, really fantastic racing in the last year or so as being part of the league. So yeah, make sure you go back and check it out. And apart from that, if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, it's GT2_driving, where you can find all my ramblings, and equally you can find me on Wednesday nights in F3. So yeah, Monday is no assist night, and Tuesday is performance, realistic performance, League 1 and League 2, and then on Wednesday night it's equal performance. We have F1, F2 and F3, some of the most competitive and fun motorsport race or e-racing you'll find anywhere on twitch.tv. So make sure you join us for all of those races. You can find out all of the stream links on our social media channels. So yeah, go to Invictus RL on Twitter and Instagram, or Invictus Racing League, where you can find out all the links to the website, and equally get yourself on the grid for F1 2019, which is coming up very shortly. And make sure you go to our sign up page, where you can get your name ready, good to go for the next season, which will be out on the new game, which we're all very much looking forward to as we sit on board with the pole sitter, kicking that Mercedes away, really putting some spin into those rear tyres and weaving heavily side to side, trying to get as much life into those tyres as soon as possible for the Mercedes. So yeah, it's Scott in the lead. He leads the grid away in pole position. Phil MCFC is in second position. Speed Queen and Alex round out row 2 in the Ferrari and in the Sauber. Joel V520 is in the second Merc in 5th position alongside the Red Bull of Humberstone. And then rounding out the grid is Ozone Never Miss in 7th position. Of course, guys, like I said before, it is a small grid tonight. We've got several drivers still on holiday due to the Easter break. And of course, if you weren't here at the start of the stream, happy Easter to all. I hope you had a wonderful bank holiday weekend, whether it be here or around the world, and you've had a great time with your friends and your family. Of course, if you've been in the UK, you've been able to enjoy the absolutely beautiful sunshine and glorious weather that we were afforded with this weekend. So yeah, hope you've all had an absolute cracker and you're back and ready for some decent Invictus League racing, and you'll be able to see it Monday night, Tuesday night and Wednesday night. So yeah, welcome back. It's always good to have you back on the stream, watching and engaging in the comments. But yeah, feel free, as like I said, Sab's not here this evening, he's away on holiday, so he's left me to myself. So feel free, if you've got anything you want to talk about, anything you want to see, drop it into the comments. More than happy to engage with you, get talking, and find out what you guys are thinking. Whether are you watching this race for your own benefit? Is it to find out the strategy? Are you watching it because you're a fan of the league? Let us know. It's always good to know what you're sitting here going through, and what you're all thinking. Is very close there between the Merc and the Renault. So Scott slowing down. You see Phil getting a little bit jumpy as we just got taken to AI to the line. But yeah, now coming up to the line, about to line up in the grid slots. 7 very quick drivers about to make a 29 lap race around Albert Park in Melbourne for the Australian Grand Prix. We've all lined up. We have 1, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4, 5 red lights, and we're out. And it's going to be pausing forever, but we're going to be leaving. And there we go, we're all off and away for the Australian Grand Prix. It's a great start there from Scott, but Phil's going to pull alongside into turn 1. Does he try and go up the inside? It's going to be tight between the two, but he's just about managed to hold off the Renault. We've had he almost hit the wall back there. A little bit of contact between him and Humber, so it looked like, but Phil's taken the lead down into turn 3. Great move there from the Renault. Speed Queen, she's maintained 3rd position. Alex is still in 4th. Joel, after looking like he almost hit the wall. As we see, that's GP1 Alex. It's gone wide. Then he's going to drop all the way down, and he's going to get right into the way of his teammate, as the two Saubers are now going to argue over 6th and 7th at the moment. But there you go, the top 2 have already started to make a slight breakaway, and it's a great getaway from Phil. He managed to get up the inside down into turn 3, and at the moment he's going to have that Merc all over the rear end of him. This isn't really an overtaking option, boys, around here. Turn 11 and 12 is far too quick, but yeah, Scott pulls in behind, runs out slightly wide, but we'll see, can everyone get through turn 11 and 12 okay for the first lap? Looks like we have. At the moment we've got no yellow flags, but look at this, nose to tail for the lead at the moment. Scott all over the rear end of the Renault, so the Renault's going to have, Scott locks up the front brakes, almost hitting the rear end of that Renault. That's going to compromise him on the exit, and what it has done is brought Speed Queen into play, and Speed Queen, she's now slowly catching up to these guys as Phil leads us away for the first lap, but he's got that Merc and the Ferrari ominously behind at the moment. So it's a great start for those 3. It's a 1.7 second lead they've built already over Joel, who's then equally got a 1.5 second lead back to Humberstone, and the two Saubers are currently fighting it out over 6th and 7th position. But yeah, great start there from Phil. Took the lead, and he's managing to keep Scott at bay. I'm sure Scott was pretty disappointed that he couldn't quite get the hammer down as early, and Phil was able to go side by side down through turn 1 and turn 2, and had the inside line for turn 3, and great move up the inside, and Scott unable to come back at him for the rest of the lap. Scott now dropping 7/10 of a second, so he's not as close as he was. Of course, he did have that contact with the Renault late in the lap. Almost sideways there for the Mercedes. And yeah, like, you can ride the curbs around here, but you do, like I said, we saw in qualifying, you do have to be careful. And you do have to make sure that you're not pushing too hard, as Joel looked like he was going slightly wide back there. He's dropped back 2.2 seconds now behind Speed Queen. So there's still a bit of an interval. Never Miss now. In fact, what we'll do is we'll quickly check in with Never Miss, who's looking at the rear end of the Red Bull ahead of Humberstone as Phil sets the fastest lap. It's 1:24.515 is the first fastest lap of the session. Never Miss not able to catch up to the Red Bull on the straight just yet, but the cars still all relatively close together. Of course, we've got a big gap now between Speed Queen and Joel, but we've got almost a 2-car train at the moment. We've got the top 3 are starting to make a breakaway, and then 4th down to 7th are only split by around about 2 seconds at the moment, 2.5 seconds. So yeah, a good 2. Oh, as Never Misses, is that GP1 Alex? He's gone wide on the exit of turn 5, ran along the wall, and he's hit one of the barriers, and it's a VSC. It's a virtual safety car on lap 3. GP1 Alex ran wide on the exit of turn 5, got onto the grass, couldn't slow it down, and then the tyre wall just comes at you, and it looks like it's ripped the front left tyre off. The tyre tethers doing their job, holding the tyre in. Equally, there was a suspension and front wing everywhere, but yeah, really unfortunate there for GP1 Alex, and it now unfortunately means we are down to 6 runners. So the downside for us, of course, is that's one less driver. The upside for the drivers is that means there's well, essentially it'll be less challenges fighting over the points that are going to be pretty crucial for them. Scott really struggling to get the power down there on the exit of turn 15, almost went onto the grass, but we've now gone back green. VSC has ended, so we're back to green and back to racing, and Phil's managed to get a really good launch off of the ending of the VSC, and he's now stretched out a 1.5 second lead to Scott in 2nd position at the moment. So it's a great end to that VSC for the Renault. We'll go down and we'll check on board with Humberstone. He's the closest on at the moment on track to anyone else, and we're now down to 4/10 of a second behind the Mercedes of Joel V520 ahead, and equally tagging along. And Never Miss, he's still there. He's only a second behind at the moment, so it's a great little attempt from Never Miss to hold on to the back of these guys. Of course, Never Miss, very new to No Assist, a very young, promising driver in Invictus, has done very well. He's up in F2 at the moment after his promotion from F3 a season and a half ago, and Never Miss, he's, as I said, almost giving him the commentator's curse, and yeah, he unfortunately just lost himself a little bit of time there, but it's Humberstone that's really starting to put the pressure now on Joel V520. He's now 3/10 of a second behind the Mercedes, coming down into, of course, DRS will be activated. Oh, it's slightly wide there for Humberstone, so that's going to compromise him slightly. And just in case you want to have a look, guys, you see, there you go, there's position changes. Phil's made that move up from 2nd into 1st, and then Joel, Humberstone and Never Miss have all moved up a position due to the fact that we lost GP1 Alex on lap 3 after hitting the wall on turn 5. No one's made a stop just yet, and there you go. Humberstone is the only one to set a time on the hardest compounder tyres, the yellow soft compounder tyres, and then equally we're running the red walled super softs and the purple walled ultra soft tyres. So if you're watching this for strategy hints for the rest of the week, if you're racing in the Performance League, if you're racing F1, F2 or F3, equally if you're watching from another league, welcome to Invictus. But yeah, this is what these guys will be running tonight. Make sure you keep an eye on what Humberstone's doing, and make sure you keep an eye on what the other 5 drivers on the super soft do. Do they run longer and try and stretch it out and go to a set of ultra softs if they can really be careful on these tyres, or do they just play it safe and go onto the softs and run longer? 4/10 of a second split, Humberstone and Joel at the moment. We're on lap 5 of 29, so we've still got plenty of racing left to go, and the lead gap at the moment is still sitting at around 1.2 seconds, but it's this battle 4th position at the moment that's the closest. DRS will be activated for Humberstone down to turn 1. Can he catch up? No, not quite. And turn 1 here, not really an overtaking position. It's really setting yourself up down here, down this 2nd DRS straight into turn 3 was where you'll get the overtake done. Really, you'd have to be really alongside the car in front of you into turn 1 if you're going to get the move, because it's so quick, and the apex is taken pretty almost full throttle. You just lift ever so slightly, but yeah, Humberstone at the moment currently sitting 2 just over 2.5 tenths of a second behind Joel. So he's doing very nicely at the moment on the harder compounded tyres to keep up with the softer super softs, which will be doing still within a relatively nice working window at the moment. So Humberstone's Phil picks up a 3-second time penalty. We've got a yellow in sector 3, and it's the leader, and he's out. Phil is out of the Australian Grand Prix. Has he lost it in the same place he did in qualifying? He has, in exactly the same position. In exactly the same position, Phil has come off the exit of turn 12, and he's lost control of the runner, and he's buried it into the wall. An absolute disaster for Phil. And you really, really feel for him. As with last week, he picked up a time penalty, and that was probably him cutting the corner on the entry of turn 12, got out onto the rumble and onto the grass on the exit turn 12, and the Renault, unfortunately, is buried into the wall as Humberstone's going to look to go around the outside of the Merc, but he's going to line himself up very nicely, and we're now down to 5 runners, so the top 5 positions will all be fighting for points tonight, and Humberstone just about holding back him from making a move into turn 3. Joel doing very nicely, putting his car in all the right places at the moment. And thanks for everyone joining the stream. And sorry that I can only bring you 5 drivers at the moment, but this battle at the moment is pretty epic at the moment. So I've said at the moment about 4 times in about 3 sentences there. So great commentary, but there we go. And yeah, close quarters between these two at the. I'm not going to say it. But so you see the Red Bull charging down the Mercedes down towards turn 11. Now we obviously don't want to see. Oh, that was a huge cut there from the Red Bull. She's almost straight lining that slight kink at turn 12. So that's going to help his exit speed a little bit. But a black helmet of Humberstone still hunting down the Mercedes, and Joel putting his car in all the right places. And yeah, Scopefielder says Phil looks so good in the lead, and he did. He really nailed the first part of the race, but unfortunately for Phil, it's just those mistakes that seem to creep into his race, and he does so well in qualifying as Humberstone's going to look to go around the outside once again, and Joel's going to go deep trying to defend, and there you go. That's what happens when you put someone under pressure for essentially 7 laps. At one point they're going to make a mistake, and it happened into turn 1. Joel went deep, and Humberstone is the beneficiary. He moves up now into what is a podium position. So what was looking like a battle over at the start of the race over, it's wide there for Joel. You don't want to see that, because that's what happened to GP1 Alex. He got wide there and hit the wall. But yeah, Humberstone now was fighting whatever was probably 5th and then became 4th. He's now found himself standing on a provisional podium position, whilst Joel will be pretty gutted with that, with his teammate leading the race at the moment, and him now off of the podium. Of course, there are points to be made in the Constructors' Championship, so it's all about attrition for these guys. Can they keep it on track? We've seen the race leader, Phil MCFC, crash out of the lead 2 laps ago. GP1 Alex crashed out on lap 3 of 29, so it's still all to play for. The gap for the lead at the moment sitting at 2 seconds between Scott and Speed Queen, so Scott's got a nice little gap between himself and Speed Queen, at just sitting there at 1.9 seconds, so he can just hold her at arm's length, which is knocking off a few tenths in this first sector at the moment. But look at the gap they've got back to Humberstone, 10.5 seconds. So those three those 3 that have now become 2, really stretching their legs out compared to everyone else. And of course, what this does, and of course you don't want to jinx anyone or any of the results that might be coming in at the end of the race distance with 20 laps left to go in it. Is Speed Queen currently sitting on another podium position, and she's yet this season to finish outside of the top 4. She's finished 4th in Bahrain, Austria and Canada. She's finished 3rd in Spain and Japan, and she's finished 2nd in Silverstone in Great Britain. Yet to stand on the top step of the podium as Joel picks up a 3-second time penalty there on the exit of turn 11, I believe it was. Cut that corner, and what we'll do is we'll check in with Speed Queen. so she's yet to pick up a win this season, which is something that we're not really used to seeing. We're used to seeing her going out and picking up some at least 2 or 3 wins per season. We saw it when in her battle with Game of the Best a few seasons ago, and equally last season out she had a superb season. But yeah, currently sitting on 64 points, level with Scott, who's equally on 64 points, but he has 3 race victories this season in Bahrain, Spain, and last week in China. So 3 race victories for Scott. However, a retirement in Japan, a few shaky results in Austria and Canada, and a 4th position in Silverstone slightly derailed his midpoint of the season. And whilst the current points leader, unfortunately not be able to join us this evening, is Sami Vipito, he's still leading the championship on 80 points at the moment. He's taken 4 race victories in Japan, Austria, Canada, and Silverstone. He took a second position in Bahrain and a 4th in Spain after making a strategy faux pas, pitting when everyone else decided to stay out and run tyres to the end, so dropped him down to 4th when it looked like the race victory was on. As we got yellow in sector 3, it's never missed. It's gone. Where's he lost it? We're going to be on board with Joel, and it's going to be a very strange position. Is it going to be down into turn? Oh, it looks like it's going to be the old evil for everyone else. Is it going to be in the exit of turn 12 that he's lost the car? And we're now down to 4 as Joel. Oh, can we see a Sauber? Oh, it must have been on the exit of turn 12 there, but there we go. We're now down to 4, so this really is a race of attrition and driver skill. You can see these guys just pushing too hard, and it really makes you think with such good points, especially for the case of the 2 Saubers, and with such good points on offer, with the fact that we only started with 7 drivers, just take it a little bit easier. Just ensure yourself you pick up the points, whether you fall a little bit further behind, as Joel's the first one to pit. He's dropped in, he's 34 seconds behind the top 3 at the moment. But yeah, whether you finish what is now in last position, you would have been picking up some decent championship points. And with Never Miss having picked up a couple of 8th positions in Canada, in Silverstone, he was on board for a great result tonight. He just needed to keep in control, but unfortunately for him, lap 10 is the end of his race. And yeah, unfortunately we are now down to 4 runners in the Invictus Racing League No Assist Championship. Of course, guys, mate, just remember we are on the UK bank holiday, Easter weekend, so happy Easter to everyone. That's why we are suffering a bit of a drought of drivers this evening. People still away on holiday for the next few days, and people gearing up for the work week. And I'm sure everyone is with me when you're not really looking forward to getting up for work after that lovely long weekend. And as I said before, I hope you've had a lovely sunny weekend wherever you are in the world watching this, and you've had a great Easter. Scott, that's at the moment, is going to be enjoying his Easter more than anyone. And of course, this is where he hits the wall. This is where it all goes wrong for the Mercedes. The commentator's curse once again, as I've been given out several times so far. We'll look to see, can he? It's almost, you can see, yeah, it's really on the ragged edge here on the exit of turn 12 there. And so yeah, this is a tale of caution for those that are looking to race around Australia this week. Is if you push too hard, unfortunately, it doesn't look like Albert Park takes too many prisoners. It's a pretty brutal one when it comes to losing control of the car, and he's decided to come in. Speed Queen had that 1 lap undercut, but it's off of the super soft tyres, and I imagine, God, that was the quickest run I've ever seen out of a pit garage ever. The Mercedes team really weren't prepared for him in there, and bolted out of the garage as Humberstone takes the current lead of the race. Of course, he started on the hardest compounded tyre, the softs, and he's going to look to run on the softer compound at the end. But there was a big gap between him and Speed Queen, so it's where is she? She's at, there's still a big gap between the two there, so it's a great in lap for the Mercedes. Equally, the out lap for Speed Queen not as powerful as she was hoping. That undercut hasn't worked to the extent, and she's now it's held at around 2.3 seconds, so the gap's still maintained around about the same as it was before the stops. But now, of course, Scott is on those tyres aren't up to temperature, so she will have a slight advantage on this lap. She should catch up. You look to see it drop down around about 5/10, I'd say. And equally, he's going to want to get these soft tyres up to temperature as soon as possible, because you know it's like she does smell blood in the water, and when she does, she tends to go after it and get it, and she's consistent when it comes to picking up points. So Scott has to be on his A game if he's going to keep it behind. But we've seen in the past these two have had some absolutely titanic battles, and you hark back to some of the races last season and in the season previously in season 5, and these two had really, really epic wheel-to-wheel races between the two. And Hungary last season, we saw a very, very how do you put it, tasty fight between the two that ended with Speed Queen going way wide out on the exit of turn 5, I believe it is, there at Hungary. So yeah, it was a great fight between the two. So they are no strangers to controversy, but equally two incredibly quick drivers themselves, and you can tell that by just how far ahead they are from everyone else. And Scott now 12 and a half, so just under 12 and a half seconds behind Humberstone. So he's easily got Humberstone in his pocket when it comes to Humberstone's pit. But then equally, Joel P520, he's had a much he came in 2 laps previous to Speed Queen, and 3 obviously to his teammate Scott. So those tyres are going to be a little bit more worn at the end of the race, so as he picks up a 3-second time penalty. But with no one behind him, he can essentially, as long as he doesn't pick up 15 and get himself a disqualification. Of course, one of the rules in Invictus, you're not allowed to pick up more than 15 seconds in corner or track extending penalties. It just allows driver discipline and behaviour, not taking liberties when it comes to the track distance and the track layout. So yeah, it's always good that we test these drivers to keep it within the 2 white, or I should say white yellow lines, as you can see in Australia. And yeah, so 15 seconds is the max, but Joel currently sitting on 6, so he's not going to have to worry about anyone overtaking him from behind, and equally he's not going to have to worry about the stewards wrapping him across the knuckles with a penalty at the moment. He's just going to unfortunately struggle, as I say, struggling. And it's Scott actually at the moment, as we've watched over the last lap as I've been talking, that he's really lost out, and Speed Queen has really closed him in over the last lap or so. She's now down to 0.4 seconds, so Scott's lost a 1.5 seconds. So it's not been the greatest of loss or outlaw 2 laps since his pit stop for Scott. He's lost that 2-second lead, now down to 0.4. It does mean that Speed Queen's going to be in the tow around here. Of course, it doesn't really help you, because all you are is you get caught in that dirty air down into the fastest corners on the racetrack. But she will get DRS now, down towards turn 13. Of course, added in this season, this extra DRS zone, making it a 3rd DRS zone on the Australian Grand Prix circuit. First one, activation, is just after the entry of the exit turn 15, and it's down from turn 16 down to turn 1. The second is down from turn 2 down to turn 3. We'll look to see, is Speed Queen close enough behind? She isn't. DRS is wide open, so she will be getting that extra speed bonus down the main straight, but not close enough. But can she? This is where you use it. So use the first one to line yourself up. Use the second one to get past, and she's going to look to the outside. Is she going to try and cut back? No, Scott nicely covering off the apex there, so he's going to make his Mercedes almost 3 cars wide, I'd imagine. You say, if you're going to get past me, you're going to have to do something special. And so as we were talking about these two having some pretty awesome fights between themselves, it looks like we're in store for another one with the lead, essentially the battle for the lead, because Humberstone has made that pit stop. He's now 9 seconds behind, so in fact he's actually made up 3 seconds, because it was at 12 seconds. So yeah, he's made up 3 seconds. He's now on the softer compounder tyre, compared to Speed Queen and Scott. So it drops up to 10 seconds, but yeah, it's still on for Humberstone if he's going to. But I say it's still on. He's still on for a podium as Joel P520 is currently sitting 11 seconds behind him with a 6-second time penalty. So Humberstone at the moment, of course, as Joel picks up, there you go, another 3-second time penalty for Joel. So that makes 9 for him. But as the pit boards come out, letting these two know they're in pretty close quarters. I'm pretty sure they won't need to be told. Scott will be able to look in his rear mirror and see that flash of scarlet red behind, and the pink and yellow helmet that we've become so accustomed to. Just making sure that she's keeping him honest. The Scopefielder, sorry, missed your comment. Scope. Speed Queen starts fighting with Scott. Hubber might have a chance considering he's on the super softs at the end of the stint. He's looking really strong, he is, but that's a big gap to make up in the last 12 laps or so. So he's going to have to really hope that Scott backs up Speed Queen at the moment, and it doesn't look like she's not hassling him too much at the moment. Of course, she had those 2 laps previously, but possibly now just saving a little bit of battery and looking to go again in a lap or two's time. So yeah, Speed Queen, she's dropped back to 0.7 of a second. So Scott now off the hook ever so slightly, but the 58 Ferrari sitting behind her, she's going to be on him. So he's going to have to watch out, because this. I don't think you can think this is the end of the fight. There's certainly more in it, and yeah, Scott will be driving round, and you'll see the big screens that will show how close they are behind. He'll know that she's currently only sitting well within DRS at the moment as Humberstone. There he is. So it's now 8.4 seconds. He was within the fastest lap of the race. So Scopefielder almost a little bit clairvoyant this evening as he said how strong Humberstone is, and it's now 8.5 seconds. But he's going to have to take, I'd say, around almost or what, just under a second per lap. And even then, he's going to catch him right at the end of the race. So it's going to have to be absolutely on it if he's going to catch up to these two. And then equally, it's one thing catching up to someone, it's another thing getting past him. So yeah, this is where it all counts for Humberstone. He's now just about to drop into 7 seconds behind. So yeah, the fight is certainly on with the Red Bull, and such is real life. We have a Mercedes versus a Ferrari versus a Red Bull. Of course, versus the second Mercedes with Joel. But of course, unless he has possibly a 9th gear that he can wear it up into, and infinite battery, I think it might be 4th position for Joel this evening with 9 seconds of penalties that he's currently sitting on. But Scott still just over half a second, as there's Joel picking up 12. So he's now, after joking about being in trouble with the stewards, he's now only one more penalty away from a little bit of an awkward discussion with the track stewards and the race stewards after the race, and his teammate under threat from losing the race victory at the moment. And this is where driver concentration is absolute key. This is where they put all that money where your mouth is, and a penalty here for Scott or a penalty here for Speed Queen is crucial. We've seen race ruined and completely turned upside down by late penalties, and Scott almost tapping the wall there on the entry to turn 11. And Humberstone now 7.2 seconds behind, but this is where he really needs to start to get a shift on if he's going to catch up, because Speed Queen, she looks like she turned the battery down for a lap or so. She's turned it back up, and that back up into we'll go on board with her in a second actually, and we'll see what her battery level is doing. We'll see if she can push any harder. So let's sit with Ferrari. And there you go, it's not much left into 8th gear, down into 5th, as you can see just how much. It's only a 3-gear shift down, then up into 6th quickly. DRS wide open once again. She's used a lot of that usable battery, but following the Mercedes ahead, and he's going to be just taking every apex and making sure she can't send that Ferrari down, and he's going to make it as difficult for her as possible. And of course you can see just on the as we get into the sun period here, it's a little bit of a line appearing on the centre of the tyre, so a little bit of graining on the front left of Speed Queen's car. So it's nothing major at the moment, but possibly something to look out for with 9 laps left to go in the race. So yeah, some graining in the tyres already, and of course it's not a huge tyre wear at the circuit, not like what we saw in China, but it's a good chance here for Speed Queen. She had a much better exit. Unfortunately there just wasn't quite close enough, but Scott now really starting to back her up, and you can see the time's coming down to Humberstone. It's 6.4 seconds now, so it's a second that he's gained in the last lap and a half. But yeah, it's a much better exit out of the final corner for Scott, and the Mercedes just drives away down the main straight. And even with DRS, you can see Speed Queen, she's really having to she's really going to have to start saving some battery, because at the moment, yes, you're fighting for the lead, but I'm sure she'll be getting told by her race engineer that, look, just take it easy. We want you to get past, but equally there's a pretty charging Red Bull behind you, and he's going to be pretty hungry to get himself interjected into this fight for the win, as Joel picks up a 5th penalty. So there's 15 seconds of time penalties for the second Mercedes there. So not great for Joel, as he's currently 17 seconds back off of Humberstone at the moment. So not a great session for Joel. It would be a dream scenario. I say dream scenario. It's a pretty advantageous scenario at the moment with such a lack of drivers, that he would be picking up decent points, but he's going to sit a long way back and equally find himself in trouble with the stewards, possibly with a disqualification for track limit extensions and driver discipline. It's now 5.9 seconds for Humberstone back to Speed Queen, and we'll go on board with him here. So can he see them yet? It's a slight blip in the down in the distance for Humberstone, so he can definitely see them, and he'll be able to he'll know that he's catching them. So Scopefielder, you're definitely on course for your prediction to come good. So yeah, would love to see your thoughts, guys. Is Humberstone going to get himself involved in this fight? And equally, if he is, can he get past? Is the win on? Is it just going to be a little bit of cat and mouse? Is Scott just possibly holding back and allowing the pace to be slowed ever so slightly, so that it really backs up Speed Queen into Humberstone? Is that a tactic that a race driver would look to use? And just like, of course, it becomes a threat from the driver behind, but it would certainly mean that Speed Queen would have to start looking in the mirrors as well as looking forward, which would take the pressure off the Mercedes a little bit. So Scott now is currently only 5.8 seconds ahead of Humberstone, so he's not with outside of striking range for the Red Bull. As you can see, yeah, it's always a much better exit before the Mercedes out of the final turn at turn 16. Speed Queen not close enough to get it done into turn 1. Or a little bit of snap oversteer there on the exit of turn 1. There, DRS is activated. Is she going to look to lunge down the inside? No, not quite close enough. Scott not as tight to the apex, so you can tell as we go on, these tyres will be getting worn down. The cars find it harder to get out onto that, or get tight onto the apex. They start drifting out more into the centre of the circuit, and it becomes harder to pull them in for the slower corners. And then equally, you'll find the pace difference when it comes to turn 11 and turn 12. And I imagine these two will lift a little bit more going into turn 11. We'll look to see. She's much closer this time. In fact, yeah, Scott lifting way harder into the turn 11 this time, and this is going to really open the door for Speed Queen. Scott covers off the inside. Speed Queen's going to have to try and switch back. Can she get it done? Not quite. So it's down into turn 14, up into turn 15, slowing it down. So lock up in the front left there for Speed Queen. Humberstone now 4.8 seconds behind, and Speed Queen much closer, much better exit out of turn 16 there. So she's going to get a much better run. So this is the opportunity now. Can she get a better run through turn 1, turn 2? Yeah, it is. It's a much better run compared to the Mercedes. This is her chance. Can she get the move done? Scott covers the inside. She's going to have to go the long way round. They're side by side. Can she get it done? Scott shuts the door. He doesn't let it pass, but he's going to run wide there, and that's going to keep her on his tail. Humberstone now 4.4 seconds behind with 5 laps in the Grand Prix left to go. So yeah, as you say, Scope, this is perfect for Humberstone. It's really falling into place for him. These two squabbling over the race lead at the moment. It just means that he can just put in fast lap after fast lap after fast lap, and he's taking, you can see, 2/10 out of them in that last complex of corners. Speed Queen, she's riding the gearbox, that Mercedes, and she's going to be right in the DRS of him going down towards turn 13 now. Can she get the move done into the inside? No, she's still sticking behind. As it is, we've seen before, is Australia is just such a tricky circuit to overtake on. There's such limited overtaking positions where you have to really be careful, because it almost invites you to throw it down the inside and really make a silly lunge. And of course, when you're fighting over the race lead, there's no point doing that. It's you might as well just stick behind them and wait for them to make a mistake, because as we saw earlier in the race, pressure invites mistakes. And so Speed Queen, she's just going to look to see, does Scott just lock up into one of these corners and go wide? But yeah, Humberstone now, he's going to be licking his lips at the prospect of being able to challenge for the race victory in the last few laps. We've got 4 laps left to go in the Australian Grand Prix with Invictus Racing League, and it's going to be between, boy better know, SB, Speed Queen 80, and can it be between the Red Bull of Humberstone? So it's going to be really interesting to see if Humberstone can get that Red Bull into this battle. It's 3.8 seconds now, so it's going to happen. Unless his tyres start to go off, he's going to get himself into this fight. And it's all about, I say that, please do not lose it on the exit of turn 12 here. This is, of course, that would happen, as Speed Queen locking up her front right down there into turn 14. And like I said, these guys are going to be driving like they're on ice this evening, trying to make sure that they don't run out wide. So it's going to be tiptoeing around the circuit, not wanting to pick up a penalty, because like I said, a penalty for either right now, well, essentially it could drop you into 3rd position, because I would imagine Humberstone's gonna crawl up to the back end of these two. So a penalty for Scott would drop him behind Humberstone, and equally a penalty for Speed Queen would drop it behind the Red Bull and out of contention for the race victory. So this is it's really going to have to be attention having to be paid by every driver for every corner, making sure that you've got every corner, every lap upon the last 4 last 3.5 in the race that we've got, making sure that you're absolutely perfect on the button, on the nose, whatever way you want to say it. They have to be absolutely on it for the last few laps of this race, not picking up any penalties. God, you could see the snap oversteer there on the exit of turn 12 for the Mercedes, still keeping in at full throttle. And yeah, there's these drivers here absolutely fearless. And of course, if you want to see some more fearless driving, make sure you go back and check out our Twitter, Invictus RL on Twitter, and check out last week's F3 race in China. There's a video on our Twitter at the moment of one of our drivers, F1 Richard 67. He got caught, or almost caught, in a crash between Daniel FN and Nitro Gash. Kept it full throttle between the two of them as they collided on the exit of, I believe it's turn 13. And yeah, it was a pretty spectacular video and pretty superb driving from F1 Richard 67. So yeah, make sure you check out the Twitter where you'll see some expert driving there and some really excellent overtakes from that race as well. So make sure you go back and watch the back catalogue of not just Invictus, no assists. Make sure you go see Performance 1 and 2, F1, F2 and F3, some of the most fun and competitive racing you find anywhere on Twitch.tv's PlayStation 4 F1 2018 game, as we look towards F1 2019. And equally, with F1 2019 coming up, what are you looking forward to? Let me know. Drop it into the comments. Let me know via on Twitter at GT2_driving. Let me know what you're looking forward to with F1 2019. Hopefully I will be coming out with a short blog in the coming week or so about the game, about what I'm hoping to see. So yeah, make sure you check out. It will be on the Understeer blog, which will be posted on the Invictus Racing League website and equally on the socials. So make sure you check that out. Let me know what you want to see from F1 2019. Are you looking forward to it? What can they do to make it better? What would you like to see kept from F1 2018? Always like to hear your thoughts about the progression of the games, and it's had a lot of grief over its greatest distance, but I think F1 2018 has definitely been Codemasters' best one to date. It's been absolutely awesome to commentate on, and yes, it does have its hiccups here and there, but it's been a fantastic product that we've been able to race on, and it's brought a lot of people a lot of joy over the last 2 seasons here at Invictus Racing League. And Speed Queen, look how close she is now. Lap 28 of lap 29, she's looking to get the move down into turn 9. They're not an overtaking position, but the laps are slowly starting to run out for Humberstone. He's 2.5 seconds behind now. These two are nose to tail. Once again, she's turned the battery up once again. Oh, surely this is her best option. She's going to be tucked in right behind the Mercedes down into turn 13. He blocks the inside once again. She's going to have to go around to the outside. Does she get it done? No. Luckily, there's no contact either between the two. Good, clean and fair driving between the top two at the moment. But Humberstone, we're gonna come on to the last lap of the race. The top two are split by absolutely nothing. Humberstone, he's got 2 seconds to make up. Is it just 1 lap too late for the Red Bull? But we're on board here with Speed Queen. She's just going to want it so much. She hasn't picked up a race victory so far this season. Scott, of course, has got 3 to his name, and this would make it a 4th. But Speed Queen, she's going to want to get past him. Oh, Scott getting it all wrong there on the exit of turn 3, got onto the grass, but Speed Queen unable to get it done. And she's she's not as close at the moment. It's still only 0.4 of a second. Humberstone, it's staying around 2 seconds at the moment, so it looks like he's realised that it's just not his race. He's so close but so far in. Unless these two get into a tangle in the last few corners of the race, it looks like Humberstone's going to have to settle for a podium position in 3rd position, which I'm sure at the start of the evening, if you said to him at the end of the tonight you'll be standing on the podium, he would have absolutely snatched your arm off and said, absolutely, I'll take that. As Humberstone in the Red Bull is currently only it's sitting at 2 seconds, so it looks like he's decided that he's not going to get any quicker. But it looks at the moment, with 2 corners left to go, as if it's going to be 2 in 2 for Boy Better Know SB in the Mercedes. Can he keep it around the final corner? He does, so Scott will take the win in the Mercedes. Congratulations, it's Speed Queen in 2nd position. Humberstone comes home 3rd, as your top 3 are split by 2.672 of a second. So superb battle there between Scott and Speed Queen. She just couldn't find a way past him. He put it in all the right places. Humberstone comes in a very, very credible 3rd, and Joel V520 fortunately was able to pick up. He's got 15 seconds of time penalties, but I believe it's 15 seconds, but he does come home 4th in and didn't pick up any time penalties for the final 9 laps of the race. So a slightly slower possible end to the race for Joel than the start. But congratulations to Scott. He takes home a second win in a row and a fourth of the season. That puts him up onto 79 points for the season. So he sits 1 point behind Samuel Fapito in the championship lead, with the Spaniard driver missing out once again. So Sam only has 1 point lead now. Speed Queen, she'll go up onto 76, so she now only sits 4 points behind him. So it's a three-way battle for the championship lead with 4 races left to go. And of course, next week we go out to the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City for the Mexican Grand Prix. And there are your results for this evening. Scott, boy better know SB, takes the victory after 41 minutes 45 seconds of racing. He takes it by 0.6 of a second to Speed Queen 80. Humbo Stone comes home third, 2.6 seconds behind, but with the fastest lap of the race of 1:23.635. Joel Fee 520 comes home in fourth, but with 15 seconds of time penalties, 5 3-second time penalties. And then unfortunately we lost Never Miss and Phil MCFC at turn 12, and GP1 Alex at turn 5. So 2 Saubers have started the race very well, but unfortunately for Alex and for Never Miss, it's not a great end to the race for those two. And equally Phil, he will be absolutely devastated with that. He was doing so well leading the race, and then unfortunately for him, he lost control on the exit of turn 12. And thanks, Scopefielder. Thanks for the kind words. Always appreciated to know that you guys are enjoying the streams. Whether we have one driver, whether we have 20, it's always good to be here, just getting the reps in and giving you guys some Monday night racing to watch. And hopefully you'll be able to join us tomorrow night for Performance 1 and Performance 2, and then on Wednesday night for F1, F2 and F3. So make sure, guys, remember, you can follow us and subscribe now. So go to the subscribe button at the top of the channel, where you can either put in a fee that you'd like to subscribe with per month, bronze tier, silver tier, old gold tier. Equally, you can use Amazon Prime to get a 1 month free subscription to the channel. We get the monetary value that goes towards making Invictus bigger and better. Of course, it's absolutely free for you. Or you can just go to Twitch and you can use Twitch bits, and you can buy Twitch bits and you can put them into the comments. So yeah, if you'd like to support the league, there's a plethora of ways that you can do that. So make sure, if you've got the way of supporting the league, of course, please do. And equally, if you'd like to go to the website, we do have a store where you can get yourself any Invictus Racing Leagues branded stuff. And hopefully I'll be getting myself some stuff to take out to the Italian Grand Prix later this year as I attend Monza for what is going to be hopefully an awesome weekend. But thank you very much for joining me. Of course, make sure you follow us on all of the socials: Invictus Racing League on Facebook, Invictus RL on Twitter and Instagram, and go to the website invictusracingleague.com, where you can go to the sign up page, get yourself on the grid for F1 2019. We've equally got a lot of end of season invitationals coming up, and there's going to be some exciting news coming out in the next week or so regarding what we're going to be doing after the end of this season. And so make sure you keep on tabs with the news page on the website, where you'll find out everything that's going on after the season finish, before F1 2019, where hopefully we can have a fun few weeks of racing in a variety of different cars. But thank you very much for joining me. It's been sorry for the lack of drivers. Once again, it is the Easter holidays. It's a hard time to get yourself on the grid. But so thank you for everyone that did manage to join us. Unfortunately, we did drop down to 4 drivers, but that is the nature of the Australian Grand Prix. Once again, happy Easter to all. I hope you had a lovely weekend, and you get possibly a little bit of extended time off, and you're not back to work like the rest of us tomorrow. And you do join us tomorrow night for the Performance League, where you can catch myself driving in Performance 1, and equally on Wednesday F1, F2 and F3. And if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, GT2_driving. But for tonight, thank you very much. Next week we'll be in Mexico City for the Mexican Grand Prix. Sab will be back with me in the commentary box. But for tonight, thank you very much and good night.